On July 4th, 1776, a momentous event took place. The Continental Congress of the 13 American colonies adopted a statement to declare themselves as legally separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain. It further went on to say they would form a new nation to be named the United States of America. Ever since then, the USA has fondly observed the 4th of July as Independence Day. But let's remember, this declaration in and of itself was hardly all it took to actually become an independent nation. Unlike today, where we sit back, relax, and enjoy it as a national holiday, it was, back then, anything but a holiday. In fact, it was the exact opposite, as depicted by this Benjamin Franklin political cartoon calling for colonial unity. It's noteworthy that the Declaration for Independence came along a little over a year after the start of the Revolutionary War. In other words, it sprang from an already strained relationship with the British Empire. The tension caused by their oppressive actions and unjust policies, such as taxation without representation, for example, had been festering for quite a while. And yet, despite the outbreak of war over it, the colonies still clung to the hope for a reconciliation with the British. But as more and more time passed without any solution in sight, that sentiment faded until it eventually turned into a decision to just simply cut all ties. They opted instead to create a new nation, one founded on a very different set of values, like all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The divide between what the British mandated and what the colonies wanted inspired the penning of a bold introduction to the Declaration itself. You may recall the resolve that's reflected in Thomas Jefferson's first few words, and I quote, "When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another," unquote. From there, the writing of the Declaration set out to complete the purpose of it. Though it wasn't actually formatted into formal segments, it's often discussed as consisting of 5 parts. First, the introduction, as we've just mentioned. Second, the preamble, which outlines the values that we referred to earlier. Third, the indictment of King George III. Fourth, the denunciation of the British people. And fifth, the conclusion. And so began the first step in the first chapter in the history of the United States. Bear in mind, the British Empire was a mighty global power during this period. Shown in pink here, it covered, at its peak, nearly a quarter of the Earth's total land area. What's more, it was plenty strong enough to wage a campaign of stubborn resistance against anyone who wanted to fight. As a result, the Revolutionary War, which would ultimately evolve into a worldwide conflict involving several countries, raged on for 8 years, 4 months, 2 weeks, and 1 day, from April 19, 1775 to September 3, 1783. Peace negotiations didn't start until 1782, and even then, the fighting went on until peace was finally declared. So here we are now, more than 200 years later, with the hindsight of knowing what has transpired since then. And though opinions are likely to vary about where we currently stand on the continuum between complete failure and perfect success, it's hard for anyone to argue we haven't tried our level best to honor the intent originally forged on that 4th of July in 1776. At the same time, the journey is far from complete. To paraphrase the American poet Robert Frost, we've miles to go before we sleep, miles to go before we sleep. All of this brings us back to the heart and soul of celebrating Independence Day in the United States today. It's about what was, what is, and what still might yet be to form a more perfect union. Happy Independence Day from us. If you'd like to learn more about licensing one of our already produced stylized PowerPoint videos, or perhaps have one custom made for you, contact Ken at marketingstrategymanagement.com. That's Ken at marketingstrategymanagement.com.